may need a pinch hitter for one of these. Okay, so in 2006, Mark and I bought so many books from Clyde Holloway. I had never worked retail before, although I had been in a healthcare clinic and had interacted with the public, but I really wasn't ready for what I was going to encounter. Mark laughed at me, Lily laughed at me. Yeah, welcome to retail. I kept hearing every time something crazy would happen. And I'd run home and say, oh, you're not going to believe this. So I started keeping a journal. And most of the stuff I'm going to read tonight is from BTF, Before the Fire. Because ATF and actually DTF, I was writing other things. So I wasn't spending the creativity on some of the stuff that I was capturing BTF. Some of you will recognize yourselves. Some of you won't.
Is that what the F?
That's just you, Herb. So anyway, I'm just going to start. Most of these are just kind of vignette-ish. There's a thing at the end that I may or may not get through because I have a squishy little heart. So we'll see. October 10, 2010. If you can't tell your friendly neighborhood bookseller about your staph infection, who can you tell? October 17th, 2009. I've had 3 marriage proposals in my life. My first was in 4th grade from a boy who was in 3rd grade on a night when the sky looked like Armageddon was happening, not just imminent. I figured it was a desperate measure on his part since neither of us had reached the age of consent. My second proposal is the one I accepted 26 years ago, and I've seen no reason to renounce so far. My third was just today, from a repeat customer who had clearly been next door at the bar. Make of that what you will. I did refuse, in case you were wondering, and then I escorted him and his bicycle out the door, but not before he offered to destroy my enemies for me because I would not marry him. October 8th, 2009. This is about Mary, who we haven't seen in a while. One of the poets at tonight's open microphone got up and read her love poems to a red-headed boy, with one of those famous parking lot oak leaves clinging desperately to her brown sweater where it curved over her ass. Oh yeah, we leave our mark on people here. July 24th, 2010. I'd like to see what you'll give me for this book. Me. We give trade credit, books for books, or books for coffee. Okay, that's great. It's a signed book, Charles Kuralt's America. Me. It's in good shape, but it's not signed. Sure it is. Me. I must have missed the signature then. Could you show me? Right here. And he opened the book and he pointed. Me. Okay, that says Boyd Canoy. That's probably a previous owner. It's not a signed book. It's signed though. But not by the author. If it were signed by Charles Kuralt, that would be something good. So it's not just a signature. It has to be the author. Pretty much, yeah. I did not fall down laughing. Well, hell, I thought, well, anyway, you know what this means, don't you? I have to go home and check all my signed books. June 11th, 2010. This was a conversation that I had with someone while one of the open mics was going on. Every now and then we'd get a phone call and I'd run into the kitchen at the old location to take the call. So, me, cover to cover books. Yes, I have a question. You're downtown, right? Me, yes. I've been to your store, but I'm not very familiar with downtown. Is there a barbecue place nearby? Me, what, a barbecue place? Yes, they serve smoked meats and things in sauce. Me, you know, a barbecue restaurant. What's the name of it? Me, were you calling the bookstore at 9 p.m. to ask directions to barbecue? Yes. Me, I see. No, I don't know a barbecue place near here. And all this time I'm speaking softly so you guys won't hear me in the other room. She, you're sure it's really near you? Me, you know, I'm sorry, but I can't think of a single one. Sorry. She, it's like fast food. No food like that, no place smoky, greasy. Me, you know, I'd really like to help, but we have an event going on here tonight and I need to get back to it. I'm going to have to let you go. I'm sorry. She, you can't think of one? Me, no, I'm sorry. Try the telephone book or maybe an internet search. She, well, I just thought you'd know. Click. Because booksellers do know everything. February 26, 2010. This was a letter to my dad, who always wanted to know what was going on at the store. I should leave you with the best thing I heard all week at the bookstore, and let it be known there was more than one doozy, including the throwaway line by a thuggish nephew, that his wheelchair-bound uncle was still refusing to rob banks with him. On Wednesday, I was speaking with an articulate 8-year-old boy, in with his father and pestiferous younger sister, looking for books about amphibians. Once the boy had chosen his book and Dad and Sis were still seeking their own, he came to the cash register and struck up a conversation, which really doesn't happen all that often with little people. It was more of a monologue, but I really enjoyed it. So you have to imagine I'm an 8-year-old boy. So I was playing, you know, with my friend Pi. Do you know him? He lives 2 houses down. His cat has kittens. We call him Pi, but that's really short for Pythagoras. He's my best friend. And anyway, Pi yelled at me to come here. And when I came to him, he had this giant frog and it peed all over Pi. So now we know why he needed the amphibian book, so he could identify the peeing frog's species. But for me, the finest moment of my week was in realizing that somewhere in this staid little Portland bedroom community, there's a child named Pythagoras. Okay. Now the one that I may or may not get through.
Do you have a designated rescue?
I have a pinch hitter back here. Chris is good at cold reads if I get stuck here. And you may just have to bear with me. I might clear my throat and then go on, but we'll see. February 12th, 2010. Some nights the open mics are filled with penis poems. Like tonight. Other night, it's politics or weather. Last night, livestock was the theme. I've never heard so many poems about cows before. There were poems about the winter breath of cows, the water filling their blunt two-pronged hoofprints in the rainy season, the dusty flanks of barn cows in summer. From cows, we moved to a narrative poem about gigging frogs and eventually spearing Dad's thigh with the frog gig. I believe that was S. Then we were back to cows again, with a poem about high school girls out on a wild tear, killing a cow with a car. But that poem had the best line of the night, because that poet is the real thing. You know a true line when you hear it, and this one is true. Hang on. Blew her back to sober, faster than her boyfriend's fist when she told him she was pregnant. Whoa! Oh man, chills the minute Constance said it. Okay, we're gonna go on. Each open mic, someone catches my attention for one reason or another, for good or for ill. Last night it was a young man dressed like Johnny Depp in Benny and June. Pork pie hat, wide bold tie, unbuttoned white button down, messy hair, suit vest, and trousers. During the break, he tried to tell me the shop cat looked like a tortoiseshell. After a little back and forth, no, he's a tabby. But he looks like a tortoiseshell. No, those are calico cats. But his fur, tortoiseshell. I finally understood him to mean that literally, not to mean that Smedley is a calico of any sort. He meant the ripple pattern on the cat's sides, which, okay, sure, I can see that. Benny later played bass guitar with a nice light touch and good finger action on the frets to accompany our host as he read. I don't know if you remember that guy's name.
I don't.
Yeah. And after the open mic was over and the rooms were clearing out, Benny complimented me on the awesome space here and wanted to play a little riff or two. So I agreed, and he serenaded me while I tidied away crumbs and espresso pucks. Broadsides and flyers, spent water bottles and coffee cups. Benny's one of those musicians who likes to look women in the eyes while he plays. It's a way of flirting, schmoozing, garnering approval. But if the object of his stare has any sense, she will recognize the distance in his eyes and know she's not really what he's seeing. He had a nice, sleepy half smile that doubtless plays well to impressionable crowds of one. Benny's poetry was nothing extra, but his bass playing was the real thing. There were truths in the strings, and he knew how to call them forth. Much later, I drove home between rainstorms with sharp stars in the spaces left by wind-torn pale clouds. Orion waited for me over our lampless street the way it does most winter nights. A barred owl sat in the grass of our lawn, swiveling its head as my car's lights moved across it, but it did not fly. Some small, warm something had met its end. In the house, Mark was still awake, to make sure I got home safely, and to report he'd saved me a few pistachios. And that's a real thing, too. So we're ready for the next one, and I made it through.
I understand when the bookstore is finally closed, that you'll be working on
Yes.
a novel of some
Yes.
kind. Three
Yes.
novels? Mark's putting
Third.
her third novel.
Yeah.
Yes, and among the people that have books for sale here tonight, of course, is Mel herself. I saw at least one copy of the book here, so check it out. What we're going to do before we take a break is Tony and I are each going to do a kind of a mini feature. As we've done these anniversary readings, we haven't really necessarily had features in January, although sometimes we did. We kind of played it by ear. And what we decided tonight was that we were going to each give you a little bit of what we've been up to. And some of the stuff that I've been working on exists in 7 or 8 versions. These poems where I incorporate overheard conversation and lines from other poems can sometimes take several years to really finish as I play with them and find new things to jam in there and things like that. This one is only has one line that's borrowed, and it's from it's the title, and it's borrowed from a character in one of the anime shows that Angela's been watching called Kill la Kill, the woman with the scissor blade. Behold the power of my freed ego, a junkie's lament. Every breath, every smile from every goddess, whatever her name, a gift. For who does not want to be admired? Gazed upon by eyes illuminated by trust in the vastness of your knowledge, your unassailable authority, devouring you with their adoration, filling you with their hope for a more interesting life beneath the surface of this mundane existence. Who among us does not wish to be loved? And just a couple more, and I believe that a version of each of these has been read here at some point, but like I said, I'm messing with them. So in some cases, you're going to hear a couple of lines more than once. This one, the title, is something that my mother said about me. So sometimes family members end up in these things too. Too cute to kill. He's a questioning motherfucker, in the moment, chewing on the divine, as if the state were out to destroy the subjective in each of us. But there's a monster in his mind, looking for a real big woman to make love to. The world is a very puzzling place. The government took all his clothes. Flagrant, sneaking subterfuge. Still, he beat it the hard way, man, with the Rosicrucian thing. Like an East Coast backwoodsman, perpetuating the myth that to look is to know. This one's called Reciprocity is in the House, and I believe I read that, but it's a new version of Reciprocity in the House with the subtitle, An Entirely Happy Convergence. And an entirely happy convergence is something I borrowed from Patti Smith, and pretty soon, later this month, my honey has bought 2 tickets for us to go and see Miss Smith, so I'm very excited about that. If you haven't read Patti Smith, please do, and if you have any interest whatsoever in what was happening in New York City in the late 60s, early 70s, read her award-winning book, Just Kids. It's a great memoir of that time, hanging out with people like Sam Shepard and Robert Mapplethorpe. Reciprocity is in the house, an entirely happy convergence. Our thoughts have forms. It's all a movie, including this conversation. There's no answer to it. Sometimes I reference people or the stars, the sun, the moon, and universal interstellar space type shit. But then she looks at me with those eyes. She punches me in the physics, and I realize that we are filled with the seeds of all the troubles and blessings of existence, but also provided with the sustaining virtue, hope. You don't see any magic? Here on the streets is action. It is the necromantical noumena of the netherworld we are courting. It's exciting, very large, a non-human abstract dance, a war of elements, torn, resoldered percussion gestures. It is the fecund labyrinth again, with so many rooms, cells, vibrations, percussions, repercussions. I have not been as others were. I've seen a lot of miracles. I'm just giving you a little taste of my energy right now. I'm not even full-fledged. I think I've discovered innocence. Lips touch soft my rim. When you see them with space between them, they are phenomenal specks of light. Let's not become robots and forget our fellow man. Applaud all songs. If crows were robots, I'd love them just the same. I think to love bravely is best, and accept as much as you can bear. And I mean, I haven't been, sometimes I talk about some of the stuff that's borrowed and who I borrowed it from. If you want to know, I'd be happy to show you after. Many people in this room are in here. In this next one, I do want to mention that Lori Loringer is here tonight, gave me the title for this one. Some of the other people that are in here, whose names you might recognize because they've come through or just know who they are. Holly Black, William Stafford, Jimmy Page, Charles Bukowski, Old Dirty Bastard, Patti Smith again, Marianne Faithfull from the great movie Girl on a Motorcycle, you should check out, and Benicio del Toro, Noam Chomsky. You cannot stop the onslaught of my mighty love. Messiah of evil, mine like a labyrinth, the leopard, the all-star, the devotee. A horrifying perfection has her full attention. It's not vitamins she needs. Here's a little slideshow. Balance on the rice fields. In conversation, souls merge, cross-pollinate. Third pathway observes, taking copious notes. Jesus speaks to her through iambic pentameter. Humping plurality. Sodomizing duality. All kinds of unknown things could go wrong, and do. Poem knows where you already are, and it nails you there. That's the Stafford line. That's a beautiful line. Mutate time, really. It's entirely a happy convergence. Nature doesn't give a fuck, man. They got lava bitches here. It's a biohazard. It's chunky. The books can't help me to kill the devil. Sometimes she still has those tendencies. This is a bit of dialogue now. I don't want your judgment. I don't want to freak out about it, but I heard it was pretty bad. I have no identity. Lost forever in you. Why do I do it? Why do I come here? How can my mind become peaceful? You must retain the mind of kindness. The odd bedfellows one does keep when he is dead. No one wants to be accused of paying attention to the wrong things. It is strange living in a place where people are soul sick. If you're willing to be puzzled, you can learn. Yeah, thanks. I'm pretty happy with that at the moment, although it may change, but I'm really grateful to Lori. That you cannot stop the onslaught of my mighty love. That might become a tattoo on my body at some point. And you can't stop mine either.
Put it someplace interesting.
Yes, I'll try. Something that'll give us an excuse to have you over to the house, right?
Well, that way you can be identified.
Yes, right. If I'm beheaded, which, you know, you have a certain role in the community, you're liable to be beheaded at any time, then yes, they'll be able to tell. And now I'm going to introduce my partner from my fiance, and my partner in Truth and Beauty here at Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic, Tony Partington.
Okay, I'm going to ask Chris to stay up here at this juncture, and we're going to start off with a collaborative poem that we wrote together. I don't think
I've never seen this before in my life.
I don't think we've ever read.
You
any
sure you
of
wrote
our-
this with me? And that's the other guy?
Wait a minute. No, I think we should. We haven't, I don't think we've ever read anything that we worked on together here, so we'll try this. We've read this a couple of times at readings where we've both been featured, so this could be kind of fun. And usually, I start out by reading it and he's somewhere else and speaks to me from there, but I think it'd be nice if you stayed up here.
Okay.
Okay.
I could run around while I do it.
Right there. This is called Queens, New York. The first time I saw Sal, he was on the stoop with Joey Sestola. I felt his gaze on me as I walked by and then heard the cat call.
Whoa, I like the view from here.
I tried to keep my mouth shut but couldn't. Yeah, view your mother. He laughed, turned up the music and pulled his hat down a little lower. We met in 5th grade at PS 122. Sal sat at the back and I sat at the front. Most days he acted like I was invisible. Then one day he said,
Hey, Shorty, can I walk you home? What do you say?
I felt the heat rise from my neck. He was Italian boy gritty. Hair a little too long, already a few whiskers on his chin, a wide smile, and perfect teeth. That afternoon we walked home. As he left, he asked,
Hey, Shorty, want to sit outside tomorrow? I'll get cones, maybe a soda.
funny how he called me Shorty when I was a foot taller. That was how the whole thing started. We dated all through high school. Every day after school we walked together. We'd sit on the stoop and I'd listen as he talked non-stop.
When I graduate, I'm heading out to California. I heard that everybody gathers in this huge park and just has a good time. They say things are changing and it's all happening in San Francisco. You should go with me, it'd be great. We could hitchhike our way out there, wouldn't that be cool?
You know, Sal ranted about heading out west. I nodded, smiled, said, really? About 100 times. He told me everything. After each sentence he'd say,
Know what I mean? Know what I'm saying?
he'd take a deep breath and go on. Summers were the best. We'd go to the public pool. When the humidity got bad in the middle of August, he and Joey would open a hydrant. We'd stand in the water for hours and he'd watch out for the little kids.
Hey, be careful there and be nice.
Sal was my first kiss. I let him feel me up. He took my hand and put it in his pants. He showed me how to touch him. The skin was so soft and he was so quiet then. He wore a gold cross on a chain. After I touched him, he put it around my neck, kissed me sweetly, and announced,
We're gonna get married someday.
Sal was my first love. He said,
You're beautiful.
always called me Shorty, told all his friends.
Leave that one alone, she's mine.
He washed dishes at the Chinese place to get money for the prom. I thought the prom was stupid, but didn't say a thing, didn't want to hurt his feelings. On prom night, I wore a lacy black dress, a little too short. Sal wore a powder blue tux he borrowed from his cousin. He pinned a corsage of small red roses to my strapless dress, and I spent the whole night trying to keep the dress from revealing my boobs. He just laughed, held out his hands, and said,
It's okay with me if your dress comes down. I got it covered.
Sal wasn't voted the most likely to succeed or the prom king. He didn't join the debate club or the chess club. Other than his regular senior picture, his only place in the yearbook was in the Hot Rod Club beside a 1968 Chevy Chevelle, suit up, of course. He wrote in my yearbook on the page with his photo.
You'll always remember me because I'm the best looking guy on the block. P.S. My love for you is forever.
I reread that P.S. each night when I went to bed after kissing his picture. In the summer after graduation, we saw each other every day, went to the movies, walked the neighborhood, even took the train out to Coney Island. When Sal got his draft notice, we talked about running to Canada. He was so terrified and upset.
I don't even understand why we're over there. What did they ever do to me? I never even heard of Vietnam before all this. But I gotta go. My dad says dodging is the coward's way out.
That was when his mother started going to St. Michael's Parish every afternoon to say extra prayers. Sal wrote letters as often as he could, but I got the sense that he wasn't telling me everything. After a while, his letters became stiff, almost mechanical. Then his dad called with the news. Sal didn't make it. Wasn't coming home. All I could think of was that we'd never make it out to San Francisco. Still, when the evening cools, I sit on the stoop and read his letters.
Dear Shorty, how's the old neighborhood doing? How are you doing? Last night I dreamed this war never happened. Dreamed we had a kid, a boy that looked like me. Oh, and we was married just like I said we would. I dreamed we let him play in the hydrant. I dreamed we walked him home from PS 122. I dreamed we was always smiling, Shorty, always smiling.
I think 3 to read to you, and my style is narrative, and I really have focused probably over my whole writing career to write about things that really concern me more in a social commentary way. So I have a couple of those. The first one is called 7 Centimeters to the Cure. And it's been a long time since I read this one, so bear with me. It starts out with a quote from the Washington Post magazine, February 4th, 2001. Dr. Walter Freeman believed he'd found an answer for mental illness. Nearly 3,500 operations later, his techniques were universally discredited. Today, some of his ideas are coming back. Walter J. Freeman made a mark on the world with a kind face and ice picks from the Uline Ice Company. Son of a work ethic clan, loved to hike and fish, believed transorbal lobotomy would release the oppressed from the prisons of their minds. Witnessed the worst at St. Elizabeth's. 5,000 twitching in fear and shame, excrement on walls, disgust everywhere, thought it a wasteland. He said, confinement is the great social tragedy. His search, find the locus of mental illness, shock the brain's mystery regions, trigger seizures to the edge of death. A defect in the brain seeks a cure in his theater of torture, experiments driven by his ambition. But it was back in the spring of 1936, Igas Moniz inspires the Nobel Prize, believed he can remove fixed ideas from the zone between the prefrontal lobes and the thalamus, the wedge of human emotion. No informed consent required. His promise to banish the voices from beyond. Everyone agrees to the fix if it makes you love more or cry less. They willingly trade this obdurate veil of pathology for a world of dullness. Probe into the conscious brain, begin with recitation, the Lord's Prayer, and with agitation removed, childhood returned to them at any age. Surgery of the spirit made history, flung Freeman to fame, to pluck madness from the brain of Mrs. Hammett and Frances Farmer. Rosemary Kennedy was number 66 in a long line of lost casualties. Hidden in the hallways of Bedlam, the spirit of her soul, lost forever. Stolen with assembly line medicine, 2 or 3 jolts of juice from an electroshock machine, His son held their legs until the convulsions stopped. Then Dad and son took a country ride for ice cream cones, waited until their subject was rendered unconscious. Returned to insert frozen ice picks through tear ducts. 3 taps of the hammer and spin. In 3 minutes, done. 7 centimeters to the cure. Dr. Freeman took it national. On a road trip like a carnival barker of old, selling elixirs, he became Dr. Feelgood. His motto, lobotomy gets them home. Long Island's Beulah Jones entered Pilgrim State Hospital, one of 12 ice-picked that day. Lost it all except the delusions that haunted till the end. Mr. Jones asked, "Where's my wife now? Bring her back. Please, bring her back." By then, it was no longer an operation of last resort. It was more like a Sunday drive, an elective for the maverick who chased away demons, or so they thought. West Virginia sought relief from the economics of insanity. The doctor accommodated 238 souls in 30 days. Yet no relief, brains destroyed, lives just collateral damage. In his final years, Dr. Walter J. Freeman drove obsessively, sought his patients one by one, left ice picks in the car, his pursuit an answer to one question only: am I a hero or am I a monster? Cheer things up just a little, I hope. It's for you. It matters to notice these things. 2 enormous crows mate in the sycamore out front, silently, shiny black wings extended. It's 1 o'clock on a Tuesday, warmest day since winter thaw, first day without socks. I want to be the crow. Eat worms and gum wrappers and mate without privacy on the front lawn. Before I can back into the street, they've finished. Lean together on the branch, first spring foliage provides little seclusion, but they could care less about these things. Just off the curb, I sit, stare, watch to see if intimacy exists between them. Between crows. Humans, we humans, are love scavengers, crows of emotion. We skim the surface, peck our way through the top layer of romance, unable to mine riches of the heart, with tools dulled by hurt and our hard outer shell. I think about intimacy a lot these days, way too much. I notice when couples don't touch. Wonder how love can possibly endure in this world. The biggest crow hops a branch, slow glide to center yard. Caw! He stares me down. I want to be the crow. Let him have my life, pay bills, and feel the weight of all this nonsense. Imagine me cawing at the neighbors, shiny black wings extended under afternoon sun. Thank you. And I have one more. It's a new poem, finished this afternoon, and it's called About Ghost Town. The featured reader holds their attention like 5 fingers against one's throat. She speaks of wounds so deep they nearly make the flesh of her disappear. It isn't until she circles back around her own words that I can hear the air re-enter the room. How can it be like this? 42 people spellbound. She isn't famous, not one of the few making a living as a poet. In fact, she tells us that carving time to write is her biggest challenge. The whole room nods and sighs, and then she reads again with all the fury and sorrow we can take. At the break, the women flock to her. The men linger, mostly silent. Nobody wants to see someone so raw, yet everyone wants to see someone raw, as long as it's not them. Nobody leaves early tonight. Last month, folks laughed so hard they cried. Tonight, they weep silently, almost in unison. So much is unexpected about these nights, yet so much is expected of poets. As poems are written, endings are perhaps the toughest to write. Tonight we will forego the ending. Instead, we will talk about a transition, something like this: a preposition to a period, a semicolon to a comma, a line break to a new stanza, raw emotion to guttural laughter, from uptown to St. John's to downtown, from ice cream parlor to bookstore to art gallery. When change occurs, we try to replace one thing for another. This time, we make a transition, both sadly in closing this chapter and hopeful in the one to come. We move forward, grateful to Mel for her generosity, patience, willingness to stay late, and you too, Mark, for embracing an all ages and uncensored model, for a multitude of kindnesses, and for making it safe for poetry to thrive in Vancouver. Thank you, Mel. Thank you. Thank you.
The series is not ending. The series will continue. When we were talking about where we were going to bring it, once we heard that the bookstore was closing, there was really only one place that I wanted to take it. I mean, I think we made a list or something like that, but we were really hoping that Leah Jackson would say yes. I've known Leah now about the same amount of time that I've known most of you, or that I've known Mel. It's been about 10 years that we've been working together. I think both Mel and Leah are similar in the sense that they do so much for the community that the community does not even realize how much they owe to them. And I'll just give those of you who are poets a sense of just a couple of the things, just a few of the things that Leah Jackson has done for the writing community since I met her. A lot of book launches, shows that incorporate text and visual art, poetry on coasters, a series of bilingual readings, which for years I wanted to do bilingual readings in Vancouver, and we made that happen. Poetry and music, and the only reading that I was able to find in the entire region to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Allen Ginsberg's Howl, arranged for 14 voices in the 6th Street Gallery when she was the director over there. And so to me, the only other person I could think of more willing than Mel to give us a place for any kind of crazy poetry idea I might have or event that I wanted to do was Leah Jackson. And since, as we mentioned almost every time here, all the writers we know in this community are also trying to write songs or trying to paint and doing more than one thing, it seems like a natural place to be, to bring it. And so starting next month, on February 12th, we'll be at Angst Gallery downtown. And if you've never been there, it's really easy to find because it's right next door to the historic Higgins Theater, which despite its giant marquee and the glowing, lights there, some people still don't realize is open for business again. It's only been, 5 years or something now. So anyway, if you can find that giant marquee, you can find us over at Angst Gallery. And I just wanted to ask Leah if she'd come up for a minute and just say hello to you, and we could kind of make this official, passing the torch to her. Yeah.
Hello. I brought a little gift for Mel. In starting your next chapter, I thought you should
you.
And I want to say thank you because I certainly wasn't in a position to help Christopher at the time that you opened your arms, so I want to say thank you. I can't wait to see where you guys are in another 8 years, so.
We'll all be locked up by that.
Well, I want to welcome you all to the gallery, and like Chris said, we've been working together for a long time, so I don't know what else you want me to say. There will be lots of juried shows, so maybe now that you're all coming down and hanging out in the gallery, you might want to participate in some upcoming shows. I don't have any list right now for you, but
There's a great show there now that is an
Oh,
annual
yes.
show.
the annual Mail Forum show. January is my birthday month, so because I like to look at men, I have a Mail Forum show. So please come and look at the men. And every year that seems, it's kind of funny how you were talking about how themes emerge from each of these readings. Every year the Mail Forum show is just a little bit different. And this year, for some reason, it's much calmer and more serene. Half of the figures have their eyes partially closed or all the way closed. And last year it was really all about the penis. Christopher's a holdover this year. His piece is definitely all about the penis this year.
2 giant pieces.
What's better than one, I guess. So we do have a show next month called, Chris, you guys may have gotten an email, I don't know. Anyway, we've sort of changed the name. It's for February, for the month of love. I didn't want to do hearts, and I didn't want to do anything quite that way. So we're doing one called Mon Poussin, which is in French, my little chick. And it's a term of endearment, so it can be anything to do with endearment or chickens. So there you go. Huh?
Endearment of
Endearment or chickens.
Sounds
So
like a writing prompt for a poetry workshop. Yeah.
yes, love your chicken much, I guess. Is that all? I would stay longer, but I need to be at Niche bright and early because we have an all-day event tomorrow. So, all right, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Leah. Yeah, so for those who haven't been, should know that Leah owns 2 businesses that are connected there, Angst Gallery and Niche Wine and Art Bar, so there'll be wine and snacks and food available during the reading, and we're trying to work out some kind of a special, some kind of a happy hour for Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic Night. So I encourage you to go down there before February 12th and see the Mail Forum show. Tony has work in the show. One of the painters in the show is here tonight. Rachel Nicholas is here, and she has a great piece in the show. So you have the rest of the month to get down there and see it. And now we're going to probably cry a little bit and take a break so you can get some coffee and snacks, 10-minute break, and we'll come back for the second half of the open mic.